Do we think we need to fight more for our rights in different areas of our lives? Do we think we will be able to live in an equal world where people are treated with dignity and respect? Do we think with progressive change we can reach our goals? Today, we, people in action, will try to answer all these questions and more. We will try to get the answer and further information with our guest, Amanda Walters, the director of the Center for Progressive Change. She is with us to help us to get more information and explanation about the center and the role played by it, and the developing ideas and trying to apply them in reality. Welcome, Amanda. At first, as classical questions, who is Amanda?
Okay, so thank you everyone for having me. So my name is Amanda Walters and I'm the director of the Centre for Progressive Change. So I've been a campaigner and community organiser for the last 14 years. Have been leading on campaigns on housing, campaigns on the living wage, campaigns in order to get constituencies to turn Labour. So I've been kind of in the field of community organising and campaigning now for some time. And about a year ago, decided to start my own organisation, the Centre for Progressive Change.
Thank you so much. Could you please tell us about your background and education?
Yeah, sure. So I'm half Colombian, half English. I was born in England, but grew up in Spain and came to the UK when I was 10. I grew up in a very small town in Yorkshire called Harrogate, which is a very beautiful and very lovely spa and floral town. But as you can imagine, being a migrant coming over to this country, when we moved to Harrogate, which is a town that is, predominantly white, predominantly British, we encountered quite a lot of difficulties and racism when we arrived there. And especially my mum, who is Colombian, struggled to be able to find decent work because of the colour of her skin and her accent. And so that is part of the reason and what motivated me to get involved in campaigning, because I believe that, everyone deserves to be treated with respect, no matter their background or where they're from. And so ended up getting involved went off to university to study philosophy and politics at the University of Manchester. And whilst I was there, got very involved in campaigning. So my first week in university, I signed up to every single campaigning society that there was at university. And by the 5 years of being in Manchester, I was leading campaigns for the student union, leading campaigns for 40,000 students on tuition fees and so on. So from there, went on to becoming a professional community organizer.
Actually, very rich background. Thank you so much for your answer, Amanda. I let my colleague now, Daniela, to continue with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Daniela, and I would like to ask you a few questions. My first question is, how long have you worked in CPC?
Okay, so we started building CPC a year ago. Oh, it was a year and 5 months ago. So yeah, the beginning of January in 2020. So it had been something that had been brewing in the background for a while and something that I'd been thinking about for about a year or so before that. But I'd finished with my last employer, decided to take a break. And then, yeah, in January 2020, decided to actually start making it a reality. So it was part of the School for Social Entrepreneurs, which is an organisation that helps found new organisations. So I did the startup programme. And yeah, we've been going now for a year and a bit.
My second question is, what do you do? What do you in CPC?
Okay, so I'm the director. So the director is the person that leads the strategic direction for the organisation, ensures that we have the talent and people involved that we need in order to be able to win the campaigns that we care about, and also ensures that we have enough funding in order to make all of that a reality.
My third question is, did you work in another organization before?
Yeah, so previously to building the Centre for Progressive Change, I was working at Citizens UK, which is the organisation that English for Action is affiliated to and is a member of. So I started at Citizens UK in 2014. I had predominantly kind of I was with Citizens UK for 6 years. So I was in charge of different living wage campaigns. So as I'm, a migrant, I speak Spanish, I speak Portuguese. I started organising cleaners in different government departments. So started with a campaign at HMRC, organising cleaners for better pay so that they would be paid a wage that they could actually live on. We then started organising at the Department of Education, at the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, eventually Heathrow Airport. So in each of those places, I was organising cleaners, as well as security guards, catering staff, and so on, that were on less than living wage, as well as their communities, and bringing press on board and other people in order to create a campaign where people would be able to get the wages that they deserved. And so through that, managed to get a living wage for 3,000 Heathrow workers. Also at the Department of Education and Foreign and Commonwealth Office, we managed to get a living wage for workers there as well. Was also doing different campaigns on housing. So in North Kensington, we were running a campaign in a number of different housing estates in order to ensure that those estates had enough funding for the repairs that needed to be done in those estates, as well as ensuring that people that were living in overcrowded housing were rehoused into properties big enough for them as well.
My last question is, what is the Center for Progressive Change?
Okay, yeah, so the Centre for Progressive Change, as a new organisation, our aim is to build national progressive campaigns. So I don't know about you, but for me, we've been going backwards rather than forwards in the UK. With things like Brexit, with things like, well, the state of our government at the moment and what is happening, with things getting more difficult for migrants, people like unemployment being like incredibly high and so on. One of the things that we're hoping to do as the Centre for Progressive Change is to start building national organising campaigns. So campaigns that are from the bottom up, that are actually creating the changes that we want to see in society. So instead of trying to just focus on the local, or I guess a lot of people also just feel quite apathetic about these issues, it's about saying, okay, if we get together lots of different people, can we build campaigns that are strong enough that we can kind of broadcast nationally and try and have an impact on some of the issues that we care about. So trying to create like national policy change and legislative change in order to change those things. So to do that, we bring together alliances around different issues. So at the moment, we have a campaign around improving the working conditions of cleaners. So we're bringing together cleaners, trade unions, community organisations in order to be able to make a difference to the lives of cleaners. But we also do training and research in order to be able to facilitate the building of those campaigns.
Thank you very much. My classmate Antonio will continue with the interview.
Thank you for your time. My name is Antonio. The next question is, when it was founded, who is it founded and why was founded?
Okay, so why was CPC founded and who was it founded for?
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. So part of why CPC was founded because since I've became a campaigner, one of the things I've been trying to work out is how do you create change? So feeling really frustrated as a young person, seeing the injustices towards migrants in my community and where I lived, but also seeing the way that, women are treated, people like from the LGBT community are treated, seeing the kind of environmental injustices and so on as a young person, the question I always asked myself was, how do you change things? Like what do you need to do in order to actually change the status quo and the way that things are? So that was the reason why I initially went to university to study philosophy and politics, to find out that question of how do you change the way the world is? Now, my degree didn't teach me that. It very much allowed me to ask a lot of bigger questions, but it never really gave me answers towards that. It was all very philosophical. And the campaigning that I did at university all kind of led me to believe that the things that we were doing we weren't winning. So for 5 years whilst I was campaigning at university and then became an elected official, we just kept losing campaigns. Like we lost campaign after campaign after campaign. And so when I became a community organizer, part of the reason why I wanted to become a community organizer was because I thought, here is something that works. By bringing a very diverse group of people together to take really effective action and being strategic, we're able to change things. But even then with community organizing, the wins that we have tend to be quite local and regional. Community organising is brilliant, but it's very focused on the local and regional. And so the Centre for Progressive Change, the aim of that and why it was founded is to start looking at, okay, if we want to win nationally, what do we need to be doing? So organising is one part of that and is absolutely key. But what is the communication strategy that we need nationally in order to create change? What is the political strategy that we need in order to win change? What are the different ways that we can create change, that we can bring together with organising in order to be able to make those changes? And so who it was founded for people that want to create change. So whether that's organisations like English for Action or trade unions like Unite, but also for individuals that are activists and actually want to see things change in their community as well.
Thank you. My next question is Center for Progressive Change a governmental organization? If not, where do you get funding from?
Great, thanks, Antonio. So we're not a government organisation. I think if we were a government organisation, they would probably cut our funding pretty quickly because a lot of what we're doing is campaigning to get the government to change legislation, policy, and the way that they behave. So we're not a government organisation. We are a not-for-profit organisation. So all of the money that we get in is in order to be able to create change and campaign. So we don't make a profit out of that. Where we get our funding from at the moment is predominantly from grant funding organisations. So there are these really big funders in the UK that will give organisations like ours and charities money in order to be able to fulfil the aims of their organisation. So whether that's campaigning or charity work. So at the moment we have 5 funders that have been funding our work. But alongside that, we also run a training programme. So the training program, people pay to be on the training program, and that gives money towards the training program itself, but also any extra money goes towards the campaigns that we have. And the training program is about organising. It's giving people the foundations about how do you organise effectively.
Thank you. My next question is, do you work only in UK or also internationally?
So we are a UK-based organisation. So obviously we care about international issues and everything is linked, especially within the economic system that we live in. All of the different issues that different countries face are interlinked. But we feel that there's enough to get on with in the UK, seeing as we've got some pretty massive issues around inequality, like issues around sustainability and all of those things that we're just focusing on the UK for now.
Thank you, Amanda. My last question is, do you use community organizer in Center for Progressive Change?
Yes, we do. We do use community organising. So we use a range of different organising techniques. So we use community organising in the way that English for Action probably knows it. So our aim is to kind of bring together different organisations to work together around the issues that they care about. So just like we do in community organising, we bring together faith organisations, trade unions, other kind of charities in order to work together so that you can build more powerful alliances to make a difference on the issues that people care about. So that is definitely one of the tools we use. It's not the only tool we use. We also use other tools like mobilizing, where you're sending out messages to lots and lots of people and seeing who wants to get involved. That's something that we use as well. We're also going to be doing advocacy, which is where you have people within Parliament that are speaking to politicians and trying to convince them of the argument as well. So we use a very kind of interdisciplinary approach.
Thank you, Amanda. My next colleague has some questions for you.
Great, thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you, Tommy. My name is Lian. Today, I would like to ask you a few questions. My first question is, what was your first experience in community organization?
Okay, great. My first experience in community organising. So after having been at university for and doing campaigning in the student union for 5 years, I ended up traveling for a while in order to try and work out, how do you create change? We had just lost in 2010 the campaign in order to stop the Conservative government raising tuition fees. So I was one of the people leading the campaigns in Manchester, and we were trying to stop the Conservative government from raising tuition fees for university students from £3,000 to £9,000. So we did this massive campaign in 2010 where we had thousands of students in Manchester, in other cities, in London, campaigning against the rise in tuition fees. And although we did this like absolute massive campaign, like mobilizing lots and lots of students, we ended up losing. And so after 2010, it was very difficult to engage anyone in doing any kind of campaigning, because people felt like, you know, we tried, but it didn't work. And so following that, I felt this kind of deep sense of frustration and feeling like there must be a better way of doing things. Like, we're obviously missing a trick here. There's something that we're not doing right. So I ended up going to Brazil to learn from some of the movements there, and ended up in a favela in Brazil outside the biggest, the third biggest city, Belo Horizonte. And there I ended up living in this like favela in this tiny little wooden shack for about 3 months. And the community were using community organizing in order to try and get their demands through. So they had this committee of the local pastor, the local vicar, plus the person that ran the local bar, and a load of other community leaders that were coming together and thinking, okay, what does our community need? And being in a favela, you know, in a shanty town, they didn't have access to running water, they didn't have access to electricity, they didn't have access to healthcare. And so what they started doing was building relationships with people in the community and in the city in order to support them in telling the council that they needed these things and they had a legitimate reason for being there. And so slowly they started building up and doing these demonstrations where they were going on these massive pilgrimages to the city council that took like almost the whole day to walk. And they were gathering thousands of people in order to go walking with them. And so I ended up in the middle of this, learning from this incredible community about how to organize effectively in the community, how to bring together different actors to work together and be strategic about how they want to create change, thinking about who's the person that has the power to create the change and how are we going to put enough pressure on them in order to be able to get them to make the changes that we want to see. And in the end, they ended up doing this massive occupation of the town hall where they had hundreds of people in there, ended up doing a hunger strike and got the council leader onto the negotiating table, who eventually negotiated around water, healthcare and electricity. So I came back from that, back to the UK, feeling absolutely amazed by what I had seen and thinking, okay, like there is something in this. And that's when I decided to become a community organizer.
Okay. My second question is, have you done any campaign or will you do any?
Have we done any campaigns? Yeah.
Okay.
So CPC is starting its first campaign. So obviously we're a very new organisation. We've only been going for a year. And our first campaign is the Cleaners United campaign. So we're literally launching on Monday. And basically this campaign comes from the frustration that I felt being a living wage campaigner around So if you think, okay, so we were organising from 2014 up until about 2019. I was organising low-paid workers, predominantly cleaners at Heathrow Airport, Foreign and Commonwealth Office, in these sorts of places. But every time we spoke to cleaners, they would say, obviously we care about wages. Wages are super important and it's one of the key things that we care about, but it's not the only thing we care about. You know, many of us don't get sick pay, lots of us don't get holiday pay, some of us are being discriminated against. I heard some horrendous cases of like sexual harassment. And so what we're hoping to do with the Cleaners United campaign is to look at, okay, what are the issues that cleaners are impacted by? And what can we do together in order to improve their lives? So what we're doing is starting to build a coalition of trade unions and community organisations in order to tackle the horrible working practices that happen in the cleaning industry and ensure that cleaners are treated with the respect that they deserve. So that is our first campaign. We're launching on Monday, where we'll be starting a listening campaign of cleaners nationally. So our aim is to listen to 500 cleaners in the UK around their work issues. So we're going to be, hopefully English for Action is going to be speaking to people here who are cleaners about their work issues. And we have people in other organisations that are doing a similar thing. But we're asking people as much as possible to please tell anyone they know that works as a cleaner to please fill in the survey that we have, or to speak to one of us to tell us their story. Because it is through bringing people together and listening to people's stories that we'll be able to build the strength that we need in order to change the issues that cleaners face.
Thank you very much. My third question is, how do you CPC research the campaigns?
Okay, yeah, good question. So we have someone that's going to be doing campaign research. So we have a professional campaign researcher that is going to be looking at where are the best places for us to target. So if you think about the cleaning industry, for instance, mostly the cleaning industry is outsourced right now. So you have these big companies like ISS, Interserve, used to be Carillion, but those sorts of organisations that are contracted by massive companies and property owners. So what's happened over the last couple of decades is that companies have more and more decided we're going to wash our hands of the cleaners and we're going to start passing our responsibility onto these companies. And by doing that, they can pay them less, they can put less into the contracts, they can basically make it so that the cleaning company doesn't have enough money in order to pay decent wages, to pay sick pay and so on. And so what we're going to be doing is through the kind of professional campaign researcher we have coming on board is looking at who are the property owners in London and other areas of the UK that are responsible for the system that is in place now. Who are the people up the chain that actually have the power to create the changes for everyone else? Because if some of these organizations, say for instance, Canary Wharf Group that own, I think are one of the biggest landowners in the entire of London, if they decided to put enough money into the cleaning budget, then there's no cleaner that would need to go hungry. There's no cleaner that would need to come in sick when they feel unwell. There's no cleaner that would have to work a crazy amount of hours and only sleep 4 hours a night. And everyone would be able to actually have a decent standard of living. So it is through the campaign researcher that we'll be doing a lot of that stuff, and also asking people to tell us through their stories and the listening campaign that we're doing, to tell us what it is like within their cleaning company or organization where they're cleaning, so we can start gathering data around what is it actually like within these places, where should we be targeting and focusing our attention.
Thanks. My last question is, do you work with individuals or organizations, and how?
So we work with both. So unlike broad-based organising, which usually only works with organisations, we work with organisations and individuals. So at the moment, we're building this coalition around the cleaning industry. So we're bringing together trade unions, community organizations, and other organizations like that, because they already have a lot of people within them, right? So if we think in order to create the changes that we want to see, we need lots and lots of people together taking action, then working with organizations is a really powerful way of doing that. But one of the things that we also want to do within the Centre for Progressive Change is to harness the energy of activists and individuals that really want to get involved. And so we already have a team of around a dozen volunteers that do different things in the organisation. But we also want to recruit more and more people that are interested and want to champion the campaigns that we do. So what we're asking of people is that if they're interested in getting involved, to volunteer through the website that we have, and to tell their friends, try and reach out to cleaners, try and speak to cleaners, speak to different organizations in order to engage them in the campaign and be an activist for the campaign.
Thank you so much. My colleagues, you also will continue the interview. Thank
Brilliant.
you.
Thank you. Cheers. Hi.
I have some questions for you, please. My first one will be, what relationships does your organization have with EFA?
Yeah, brilliant. So, English for Action are one of the key partners in the Cleaners United campaign. So from the beginning, English for Action have been really supportive of the campaign and have been helping us to gather the funding that we need, build the relationships that we need to build, get organisations on board and thinking kind of strategically about the direction of the campaign. And so they're a member of the Cleaners United Alliance that we have built and a very kind of central partner in that. And on the kind of reverse of that, the Centre for Progressive Change is going to be supporting some of the campaigns that English for Action are running, like the ESOL campaign. So hopefully we can support each other's campaigns and have a kind of mutually beneficial relationship like that.
Okay. My second question will be talking about the Cleaners United campaign. Why are you doing this?
Okay, thanks. So the reason why we're doing this is because I don't know about you, but I feel this kind of deep sense of injustice that the people that are cleaning an office have a very different life to the people who are working in that office. So the people that are using that office from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m, typing away, doing whatever they do, have a much higher standard of living and a much better work-life balance and well-being than the person that comes and cleans the office before they're there or after they're there. And for me, that is completely unjust. Like, there's no reason why those two people should be treated differently. Why should one of them be given such a higher salary to the other one, when actually the job of a cleaner is incredibly important, especially as we've seen during the pandemic. It's like, if surfaces are not clean, people get infections and can transmit that to other people. So cleaners are doing incredibly important work that allows for everyone else to do their job. So they should be recognized as such. I also don't understand how within like those two different groups, why does one get certain benefits like sick pay, holiday pay, and so on, whilst the other one doesn't? There's for me, no reasons why those two things should be different, but it's the reality in which we live that there is an inequality between the two. So what we're hoping to do through the Cleaners United campaign is to balance things out more and to actually bring up the working standards of cleaners so that it is more in line with the other standards that other people have.
My third question is, how can people learn community organizing and why is it important?
Great. So we have a training program, which is called the Organising Foundation course, which some of people from English for Action have already been on. So the aim of that is to bring people together in a cohort of around 10 to 15 people, where you will have 8 videos to watch and then have 8 Zoom calls where we will talk about different aspects of community organizing. So we hope that through the training program, we'll be able to train people in community organizing, but also give people opportunities to put it into practice and actually have a go at doing some of the things which we teach about. And the reason why it's important is because if you're a single person trying to create change, how often do we see change when it's just one person trying to do something? It doesn't really happen, right? The times when we've seen real change, whether that's in your workplace or in your community or at a national level, is because there are lots of people involved. And so what community organizing does is it says, if you want to create change, you need to learn how to work with other people and bring people together in order to be strategic about taking action on the issues you care about. And through that, we've seen that this is a tried and tested way of creating change. We've seen it through housing campaigns, living wage campaigns, immigration campaigns in the UK over the last 10 years. It is a way in which people can actually create the changes that they want to see.
So my last question would be this. If you give training to people, which kind and how do you give it?
What kind of training we give?
Yeah, and how you do it? Face-to-face or online? And is it free or pay?
Okay, so there are places on our training for free for English for Action students, in particular cleaners. So we have reserved places for any cleaner that wants to come on our training that is available. So it would be a matter of speaking to some of the English for Action staff if you wanted to come onto the training. We were hoping to do face-to-face trainings, but obviously because of the pandemic, that's been difficult. So we've been having to do everything online. So it's a range of videos which allows people to spend 20 minutes whenever they have time gathering the information that they need for the session. And then afterwards having a 90-minute phone Zoom call with other people to do exercises and things in order to put things into practice. Hopefully we'll be able to do face-to-face trainings again at some point. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure when we'll be able to restart that.
Still, a part of the question you didn't respond to is it free or people should pay for it? Okay,
yeah. So if you're a cleaner or a member of English for Action, then you can come onto the training for free. It is a paid training. So we have different tiers. We have one tier which is I can't remember the pricing right now, but it is for us to cover our costs. We have 2 trainers who run the training, so it's to cover their staff, their salaries. And then we have for organizations that have more money, we have a solidarity price tag as well. So anyone that is coming on from an organization that has more money, we ask them to pay the standard rate, which will cover our costs, but to give some extra money so that we can get other people onto the course for free or put towards campaigning as well.
Thank you very much for all your explanation, please. My colleague Pedro will continue with you with the interview. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Yusuf.
Thank you, Yusuf. Hello, Amanda.
Hi, Pedro.
My first question for you is, what's your vision or your objective?
Great question. So our vision is like if the Centre for Progressive Change could be an organisation that alongside other organisations creates a progressive society, then I will die happy. That would have been like the most incredible thing that we could have achieved. So my vision is of a society where, what I mean by progressive is it's a society where you have justice. It's a society where you have a kind of equal society where people are not discriminated against because of where they're from, the color of their skin, their gender, their sexuality, or anything else, or because they do particular types of work. It is a society where we care about the planet and try and create a sustainable way of living that is in tune with nature and not creating further like the problems of global warming and climate change. So for me, that is like our vision. It's like if we can be one of the cogs in the machine that allows us to get towards a fairer society, that's the vision. In terms of the objectives to get there, we see our role as the kind of campaigning outside of government organisation. So an organisation that is doing research on what works in order to create change. Because one of the things that tends to happen in kind of in the campaigning world is that everyone is so busy that no one has time to stop and think what has actually worked and what should we spend our energy doing. So we've got people that are doing research at the moment on what are the biggest of the campaigns that have won over the last 10 years legislative change. How did they do it? Is there anything that they share in common? And so we'll have a report out in September that will share some of our findings from that. Then the other things that our objectives are training people. So the more people that we have trained up that know about community organizing and other ways of creating change, the more we'll be able to actually achieve the changes that we want to see. And our third objective is actually leading our own progressive national campaigns. So with the Cleaners United campaign, that is our pilot campaign and the first campaign that we'll be doing. But the aim is to eventually do a number of different campaigns on different issues that are winning national legislative change.
Thank you, Amanda. My second question, you have already said something about this, but we want to know more about this. So who can join the Center for Progressive Change, and do you accept any volunteers?
Great, yeah. So anyone can join the Center for Progressive Change if you agree with our vision, our objectives, and the way we operate. Then obviously people are welcome to join if people feel that this is an organisation that represents what they want to spend their time doing. We already have a set of volunteers, so we call them the Center for Progressive Change Heroes. Because they really are, if it wasn't for them, this organisation would not have got up and running. So my theory is that instead of giving volunteers tasks, so for instance, if you come to me and say, okay, I want to volunteer, and I just give you, okay, can you, stuff letters in an envelope, then you're not going to stay for very long. So our volunteers are very much given responsibilities. In one of the things that I went to do in 2019 was to spend some time in the US looking at how do the most successful campaigns in the US win. And one of the things that was very clear to me is that in order to win the things that we want to win, requires thousands of people. We're talking about national change. And so in order to do that, that requires thousands of volunteers. Like we're going to need thousands of people involved in these campaigns in order to make them happen. And not in the kind of like, piecemeal way. It's like people need to really be taking responsibility for different parts of the campaign and running with that. So what we tend to do at CPC is we have working groups where if people are interested in volunteering, they'll come along to one of the meetings and join one of the working groups. And those working groups are very much responsible for delivering on that part of the campaign. So I will give a bit of input and a bit of support and training, but it's very much for those groups to run with what they're doing and make sure that that is seen as a success. So if people are interested in volunteering, then they can get in touch with me through English for Action, or on our website, we also have places where you can sign up as a volunteer as well.
Thank you for your answer. And my last question for you is, how can people contact you?
Great. So if you go onto the Centre for Progressive Change website, you'll see our contact details there. So you can email me or call me. Also through English for Action, if you want to get hold of us, you can ask any of the English for Action staff and they can send you my email or contact details.
Thank you, Amanda, for attending this interview. And I wish you much success in this beautiful work that you carry out. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Conclusion. Today, we interview the director and founder of Center for Progressive Change, Amanda Waiters. She has got a lot of experience of community organization, and she has done a lot of campaigns. The CP is a not-for-profit organization. They have done a lot of amazing work. They are a fantastic organization. CPC offer online or face-to-face training in community organization. At the moment, are running an important campaign with cleaners. Many migrants work in the cleaning industry and often experience bad working conditions. Amanda's organization can change our life because now we have an important an opportunity to unite and stand up to our employers who do not recognize action and laws. One will not free oneself from oppression, but together we can for a dignified life. Let's support this solidarity organization CPC. If you need more information about CPC, please go to their website. If you need help or have any question, you can contact them. They'll also accept volunteers.